Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Web3 Quick Bites podcast, the podcast where we jump to the latest beats in a decentralized world and chat with some of the brilliant minds in the Web3 industry. On today's show, I'm super excited to be joined by João Gracia, the global developer advocate at Cartesi. João is a passionate software developer with a solid foundation from his bachelor's degrees in computer science and information systems. His journey has taken him from experimenting with cutting-edge tech at the Apple Developer Academy to being at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. In this episode, we are picking Joao's brain on the real hurdles developers face when trying to break into Web3. We'll get his take on the most mind-blowing opportunities on the horizon and how Cartesi is helping unlock that potential. We'll also dive into their Dope Grants program for supporting developers, plus all the awesome educational initiatives they've got going on globally. So get ready for an engaging conversation that will give you a glimpse into the future of decentralized app development. Whether you're a seasoned Web3 pro or just starting to dip your toes into this world, there's something for everyone. Hi, Joao. It's so great to have you on the show today. How are things going over at Cartesi?
Hey, it's great to be here. It's very nice talking to you. And things are going good. Actually, right now, me and my team, we are staying in Goa. Have you ever been here in India?
No, I haven't. I haven't been, but I hope to visit one day.
Yes, it's an amazing place. It's very fun, and we're doing a team meeting here. So everyone's working together, and it's being real exciting.
Can imagine how exciting it must be.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with your background and how it all started, where it all started from. So can you take us back to the beginning of your journey as a software developer? What first sparked your interest in technology and coding?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix between lots of things. I think I always had this big influence of my father, who always worked in IT, at least since I remember. And and at the same time, I was really into games. And I always heard that I should, instead of just trying to play, trying to make them. So it was the first incentive. And it felt like a very natural path when I started looking for courses in universities and things like that. So yeah, I think after that, I had a great experience with internships. I started scientific projects, academic researches, and even went to, as you mentioned, the Apple Developer Academy, then joined startups, consulting companies. It's been a wild ride, and finally joining Web3 by participating, being able to be this contributor on the Cartesi project.
All right. Awesome. I guess I'll have to give a shout out to your dad for sparking that passion in you.
Oh yeah, always. I mean, he's been my mentor for many years now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. All right. So you've had you've certainly had an interesting and diverse career path, right? So and the aspiring developers who are coming up who also want to be at the stage you are in now. People who are just beginners, entry level, like some people like to call it. So, what advice will you give to aspiring developers who are trying to chart their own journey in this unique industry?
Oh wow, so many things. The first one is don't give up, because things can seem very hard at many points, right? Uh, be passionate about what you're doing, because if you don't have interest in the project that you are working on, if you don't have interest in learning the things you're trying to, you will get demotivated. So find your passion. And there are so many ways to contribute and to start developing. Like you can start the front end, you can start with back end, you can start being a person who's more guided towards the user experience or the application logic itself. Find your passion and try many things. Like if you just try everything, you will for sure find something that you like, and you can evolve and create a good basis on it. And yeah, from there you can just start embracing the world and taking on everything.
Right, awesome. So I like the fact that we started this episode with words of encouragement and motivation before we dive far. really deep into today's episode. So, speaking of your role as a developer advocate,
Yeah.
likely worked with many developers who are new to Web3. So,
Mm.
what are some of the most common pain points or barriers to entry that you see them facing?
Okay, so a very clear one is that documentation for Web3 is not easy to access, and there are many concepts that are very hard to grasp. Okay, it's not like the Web2 world where everything is established. If you stop to think about how the Web2 world was in the beginning, it was probably crazy as well. But today, you are of course an avid user of internet, but you don't think like, oh, I'm using this SSL protocol while I'm using the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, on Web3, we still don't have those completely clear and diffused standards that you don't even have to think while you're using. And you have to actually mix and match all the protocols to get to where you want. So the biggest pain points is understanding everything that's going on all the time, because so many cool protocols are showing up that it ends up being hard to keep track of everything.
Okay, so do you think this issue is because Web3 is still in its early stages and we still have a long way to go?
I think so. I do think so, because the way I see Web3, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you host many people from Web3, most of them are very open to collaboration, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very inclusive community. So I do think that it's just a matter of time before we can reach diverse agreements in many different areas.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, in as much as we've achieved quite a lot in the Web3 space, we still have a long way to go. We still have a long, long way to go and so many more things to achieve.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you optimistic about it?
Me? Oh, yeah, yes, I am. I am. I'm actually quite optimistic. So what I always say at the end of this is that I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So to manage my expectations, I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm managing my expectations, right?
Yeah.
So keeping my fingers crossed and see what evolves. But I think it's actually a good thing because this industry moves so fast. It's like we go to bed today having a knowledge about how something works, and then the next morning we are up and like, okay, things are changing. What exactly is happening? So I like how it evolves, how it's very fast and keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And if you're not plugged in every channel and in many Discord communities, in on X, seeing whatever everyone's talking about, if you turn off for just a moment, you have to be very careful not to lose, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the FOMO is actually real in Web3.
Yeah.
So always stay updated all the time. Well, still always say fingers crossed. So, in your view, what are some of the critical steps the Web3 community needs to take to make the technology more accessible and approachable for a wider range of developers?
So I think this will come with time, but to make it more accessible, we have to improve the developer journey as a whole. Like every protocol should be focusing on that. And I think understanding what the other protocols are doing well and reproducing this is something that will come organically, because the best way for you to treat UX is not the best way, but an essential piece of it is actually understanding what works and reproducing it, and what doesn't work and making it better. So if I see something that works real well for someone, it's not that I'm copying it, but I'm adapting it to my needs. So whenever someone reaches that part of the journey, reaches that small thing that they have to do to create their app or to deploy, they will be familiarized with it, right? So it's an organic evolution that will happen.
Organic evolution, I like that. I like how that sounds. We just spoke about how the Web3 space evolves rapidly a couple of seconds ago, and we have new use cases and capabilities emerging all the time. So, from your vantage point, what are some of the most promising or impactful areas of opportunity that you are excited about?
Hmm. So I really like how the conversations of modularity have been going lately. Okay. We are very mature in the conversation of how we can actually divide the blockchains and the ecosystem into modular layers. Okay. So for Cartesi specifically, we can see ourselves as an execution layer. So we can actually be plugged and work in tandem with data availability and consensus layers and settlement layers. So I really like how is it going because you get the best of every world. I imagine this unlocks the possibility if you have a well-planned and well-structured data availability layer, you are able to now input so much more information to your dApps. And if you have a great execution layer, you're capable of doing so much with less cost, right? So everything coming together sounds to me like the next step in the evolution. That's what I want to see. How far we'll go in that aspect.
All right, great. So I would like to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned something about execution layer. So is it fair to say that a lot of should I say dApps, like you said, like you just said, depends on this execution layer? I'm just trying to get like the hang of it. I'm a non-technical person, so I'm trying to wear my technical hat and understand.
Yes, actually, this is something that is very important, and we still in Web3 as a whole have a very hard time making it very clear for the non-technical people, right? When we think about every one of those layers, they are all important and play a big part. So for the execution layer specifically, if you don't have an execution layer capable of handling complex computations, which is what Cartesi does, you are not able to operate or to create some functionalities within your dApp that you really wanted to. So for example, if you want to run a machine learning model on chain to make it verifiable, you have to have an execution layer that's capable of doing that. At the same time, if you want to feed this model with a lot of information, you need to have a data availability layer that's capable of that. Did that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does. So it's like there's every layer to what's the word I'm looking for now? So the success of each dApp depends on the execution layer or that layer you just mentioned now.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we do have this on Cartesi, which is called the Cone of Innovation. For anyone who wants to Google it, it's really nice. It's in an article that we created not long ago. And the Cone of Innovation, it basically shows how the different parts of this stack interact, right? So if you're not using a very powerful execution layer and not a very powerful data availability layer, I'm saying powerful for lack of better word, right? You are kind of limited in your options of applications. But as you scale any one of these directions, you get more capabilities and resources to do whatever you want. So depending on the quality of the resources you're using, you are limited. So on Ethereum layer 1, like if I remember correctly, the Cone of Innovation, I think it's very limited to gentrified DeFi and token sale. But as as you grow up in your computational capacity to a roll up, you are able to do more gamify, like game finance, right? Or when you go to app chains, you are able to create decentralized games. And when you increase the data availability capacity, you can start doing more complex DAOs or even complete metaverse, right?
So, you just made both technical industry look so appealing and interesting right now. And I'm here thinking that, okay, is it too late for me to make this switch from marketing to be a software developer or something? And that's actually quite amazing what you guys are doing in the back end and trying to make all these things work at the same time. Sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. I talk about it passionately.
Yeah. Okay, so still on the exciting mode about Web3. So looking at it, where do you see the biggest breakthroughs or advancements happening in the Web3 ecosystem over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Over the next 3 to 5 years, that's a great question. I think kind of what I mentioned in the last question will be able. It's something that will trigger for us increase in scalability and efficiency. It will improve a lot. So I do think we'll have a huge increase in the adoption of layer 2 solutions as rollups, side chains. I think we'll have a bigger clarity of what the Web3 is for. And yeah, as I used this word before, right? But I think everything will become more organic for us.
Right. So, in my words, our fingers are crossed. Keep our fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So let's talk a bit about your current role at Cartesi. What attracted you to the company and the work they are doing in the Web3 space?
Okay, that's a very good question, right? So besides the role drama thing that I can add here, explaining why Cartesi is amazing, and I'll do that very soon. One of my first experiences with Web3 was with talking to people from Cartesi, because I had to, while I was still in Web 2, design a Web3 solution. So I had to study a lot. And it was a solution regarding green energy credit. And it was a very complex solution that was a very big headache for me to develop. And also creating all these huge having to take down these huge barriers, that was understanding all the concepts of Web3. So as soon as I stopped trying to be so insistent on using what everybody else not from Cartesi was telling me to, and started studying Cartesi, I started realizing, and now that's the part where I actually talk about Cartesi, I started realizing how much easier my life would have been, right? So, because Cartesi would actually enable me to do everything in a much faster fashion. That's because Cartesi brings to me the capacity of use much less resources, blockchain resources, have more complex operations. It allows me to use the tooling and the stack that I was used to in Web 2. So the barriers were lower and the capacity was much bigger, because that's what Cartesi does. It's, as an execution layer, it's designed differently from almost everyone else's protocol, in a way that I can adapt with the tooling that I can inherit from Web 2. And this is amazing. And this unlocks so much all the time. I think it's that. And I think it's, once I started studying like crazy, it made all the sense to me that it was the clear next step. Like, Ethereum was a huge success in enabling computations on chain. And now Cartesi enables more complex computations, more complex tasks, like running AI models, like running games that process hundreds of movements per second, as we did putting Doom on the blockchain, right? So this is all so much fun.
I can say that. So shout out to Cartesi for giving you that soft landing.
Yeah.
And not shout out to them for real. Okay, so if you As to summarize the key value proposition of the Cartesi platform for Web3 developers, what would you highlight?
I think it's empowering. Like the most important thing is empowering developers to make them be able to do what they weren't before. And at the same time, it's not reinvented the wheel, right? Because we are reinventing the wheel with Web3. Of course, this is impossible to contest. We are creating something so new, the whole ecosystem of Web3 together. But taking lessons from what we learned through all the years and not letting those things go to waste. Right? So being able to use all the compilers, all the test tools, all the languages and frameworks and libraries that have been here for so long and integrating them seamlessly, it's just great.
Okay, so shout out to Cartesi again, because I like the word you used, empowering. I like it. Actually did resonate, because if empowering other Web3 developers and letting them know that they can actually build amazing things and do amazing things on the platform, even motivates them to even want to build even more greater things, right? And amazing things. So I think the key word here is empowering. I like that. That was the first thing you mentioned.
I think that's a very common thing in life, right? If you're, for example, changing area on your work, it's kind of frustrating if you can't bring all the knowledge that you created for so long, right? From one job to another in a transition or something like that. So it kind of resonates to that, I think.
Yes, it does. It does actually. So let's talk about Cartesi Grants Program. I'm aware that Cartesi has a grant program that supports Web3 developers. Can you tell us a bit more about the goals and focus areas of that program and how developers can get involved?
Okay, for sure. Actually, we do have 2 grants programs running on right now. The first one is the Cartesi Developer Advocate Seed Grants. Okay, so we call them DevAd Seed Grants, which are smaller grants up to $5,000 for solutions on Cartesi and with Cartesi and to Cartesi. And by that, I mean, you can create technical things that will help us and you'll learn in the process, which means that tooling. So if you want to create different tools for people to use on Cartesi or different solutions, frameworks that will help in the process of development, and at the same time, final solutions. So you have this idea for an application and it's a process that you can just apply to, get some funding for it. And the cool thing about the DevAd Seed Grants is that it's all about the developer journey and learning experience. So we do provide support and guidance from the developer advocate unit, the developer advocacy units, And yeah, so you learn while you build and you're funded for it, which is great. We have some very cool projects coming on right now, some solutions that will make the Cartesi development more similar to organic and Web2 or more similar and more organic to Web3 developers. So tools that are coming this way. And we do have games that are being built. We have DeFi solutions and IoT solutions that are being built on Cartesi all through this program. And we do have the other one, which is the Cartesi Grants Program, where the grants go up to $50,000. And they are more oriented towards the protocol and creating what brings value to the ecosystem, right? So this is the cool thing about our developer journey. We're kind of covering all bases. And in the Cartesi Grants Program, we have some cool solutions coming on as well relative to DeFi. Games also is always something big. Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm particularly excited to hear about that. And if you're a developer listening to this episode, you heard what João said, that you learn while you build and you get funded for it. So for anyone who is interested in applying for the Cartesi Grant Program, I mean for developers who are interested, how do they apply?
So for the DevEd seed grants, you can just go to our DevEd seed grants landing page where you can see some options that we lay there, suggestions of projects, or you can submit your custom one. And for the Cartesi grants program, we do have also this landing on the Charmverse where you can actually apply and see the grants that are going on right now. And there's a very quick form that you submit explaining exactly how, for both cases, right? How you're going to develop this dev, what are the milestones, what's the intended outcome, and how much do you think your solution is worth. So we discuss, we evaluate, we have some back and forth. And as soon as we reach a mutual agreement, we can start developing and seeing the thing come to life.
For anyone who is interested in applying for the Cartesi grant, I will link the Cartesi website to the show notes of this episode so you can visit and get all the information you need. You could be the next Cartesi grant winner, so you better don't miss out on this. Don't even try to sleep on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so moving on, let's talk about Cartesi's hackathons. Cartesi has been actively hosting hackathons and educational events aimed at fostering the Web3 developer ecosystem. Can you give us an overview of the primary focus areas and goals behind these initiatives? And also, what have been some of the key outcomes and standout projects to emerge from the hackathons?
Okay, so like from a few of those hackathons that we organized that come to mind, a very fun one was the Cartesi Experiment Week, where we opened for everyone who's familiar to the ecosystem to experiment with Cartesi. And all the contributors, current contributors of the project, start building solutions. It was really fun. We saw some crazy things we didn't expect, like integrations with different protocols, testing tools, things like that. Then we had the ETH Global by the end of last year, where we had some awesome machine learning models being submitted. I think like Protocol GPT was one of them, where you can actually have a AI LLM running on Cartesi. That really stood out to me. We had the Cartesi masterclass in Nigeria. This was a fun one because it was a masterclass, but where we sent our team, our developer advocacy team, to Nigeria, and we hosted a 4-week course explaining everything about Cartesi, and by the end of it, the students formed groups and built their own dApps, and it was a mini hackathon by the end. We had a social network being built on Cartesi with lots of functionalities, akin to X, but with more, like games inside it as well. We did have a game that was one of the winners again, Nebula Duel, where it's a strategy game where you create teams that fight with each other. And it does have some very complex computations that to calculate the results that wouldn't be able to be performed on regular EVM environments, right? So that's so cool about Cartesi. All the solutions, they're not trivial. And we recently had this online hackathon that we hosted on Taikai, which was amazing. We had so many participants, so many submissions. I think it was more than 300 different people subscribing. And the winner was actually a very cool integration of protocol. We always love to see that, of Cartesi Cash. It was called the final product, Cartesi Cash, which would be an integration of Cartesi with Zcash. So what else we had? We had some cool tooling coming out of it. This one was more focused on real-world use cases. So every hackathon can have a different purpose, right? Maybe some about showing Cartesi's computing potential, maybe some showing about integrations, maybe others talking about whatever you want to build, and others tracks about tooling. So there are many ways to do this, but they always bring a lot to the ecosystem in diverse and different ways.
Right, great. And I must add that protocol GPT actually sounds like fun.
It does. It really is fun.
You don't sound like fun. So still on the hackathon conversation, from what you've just said, the hackathons seem to have a strong emphasis on nurturing and supporting troublesome developers and projects.
Mm-hmm.
So how does Cartesi's grants program work in tandem with this event to provide ongoing support and resources to participants with innovative ideas?
It's actually very, very interesting how it works, because seamlessly it just happens, lots of people have their first contact with Cartesi through a hackathon, through a bounty. And once they finish, because hackathons are always so rushed, so full of adrenaline, that you don't have time to create a polished product. So you can many times get those products that you started on a hackathon and use them to apply to a seed grant or to a Cartesi grant that you just want to create a more polished version of it. And we are frequently very happy to fund it.
I like that. Happy to fund it.
Yes. We do have a few actually winners of hackathons applying for the grants programs. It's always nice to see that this part of the developer journey works linearly. Like, you participate on a hackathon, you apply to a seed grant, you want to make an even bigger project, then you apply for a Cartesi grant. Very nice.
So, yeah, I bet it is. So if you're a developer, I'm going to tell you this again, and you're listening to this episode, you need to visit that website and get on board. Sign up for the Cartesi hackathons, or find a way if you're eligible for the Cartesi grant program. Just sign up. Like I said, you can be the next person. You can be the next person inventing something more fun than protocol GPT. I don't know, maybe something that is going to transform the Web3 space. So don't miss out on this. You heard him say they're always happy to fund projects that are what I'm looking for now. I'm trying to look for like a big adjective to qualify this. The next earth-shattering project. They're always happy to fund it. So
yeah, just have an idea and apply to us. And I hope it's a great idea that we'll be happy to help you bring out to life.
Right. There you have it, guys. No idea is a waste. Just have an idea. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board and come back with something better.
Exactly.
Hey. So you mentioned something about masterclass program. You touched on it for a bit, but I'd like to go into it extensively.
Yes.
You mentioned the master class program that Cartesi hosts in addition to hackathons. And just like you mentioned, Cartesi has hosted a series of masterclass workshops in various locations globally. So I would like to know, what is the underlying mission and purpose behind these masterclasses, and how do they differ from or complement the hackathon experience?
So it was very interesting. First, answering the second part of the question, right? So I'm going to do a switcheroo here.
All right.
The students of the masterclass, I think almost every one of them applied for the hackathon of the last Nigeria masterclass, right? Which was great to see, because we actually spent time and effort into teaching those developers how to learn, and they were able to actually produce and understand the core concepts of Cartesi, understand what are the key values of it, and create products that actually make a lot of sense for the protocol. That said, we even had winners of the hackathon that were in the masterclass. So we were very proud of that. Now, the underlying mission of those is to actually understand what places, I think those was the first part of the question, right? What's the objective with these masterclasses? It's to be able to figure out who are those people who would be most benefited of, who would have most benefit out of using the protocol, and bringing the protocol to them, right? So teaching them, explaining exactly how it works, and forming a good community that's happy to work with it. Yeah.
Just to actually mention, I mean, way before we even said you're going to jump on my podcast, I actually attended the day 2 of Lagos Cartesi masterclass. I was there.
Oh, awesome.
The private event that happened on a Sunday. I was present. So, what would you say made the Lagos masterclass event successful? Can you give us some insights into what made that particular masterclass and hackathon event successful?
I think lots of things went to it, but I think the most important was the passion of the developers that were willing to learn and create new things, right? It's not an easy journey to start developing on a new protocol, and one's so different from every other one, like Cartesi, that has values different from every other one. So I think it was persistence, and I think quality of the team that works with me. I think I'm very proud to be in this team because they are actually amazing guys that are willing to go through the effort of reach and understand what are the pain points of the students and actually have an open dialogue to understand what do you need, what makes sense to you, what doesn't. So this way we can actually create the best approach personalized for each and every person. And I do think that something that made a huge difference was us being there presentially, because this impacts how people see you and how they take you in terms of seriousness, and the experience is just so much better when you can give support in person to someone. Like, come here, let me show how to do this, and you actually are by their side on the computer giving ideas and guiding them through the process.
Yes. So one thing I've picked from your response to my last question is that passion to learn and create is basically the start of a successful learning journey.
Exactly. If you're not willing to go to the whole process, you'll have a hard time. But if you are, it will just be fun. And I don't mean this by Cartesi. I do think we have one of the best developer journeys. But I think for technology in general, you have to be willing to learn a lot.
Especially in Web3, you have to be willing to learn a lot, like a whole lot, or else left behind. Just wake up the next day and say, "Oh, everybody has left me behind already."
Exactly. And every day.
Yes, learn every day in this space. So let's dive deeper into the masterclass format. So I'm particularly curious, like how are these educational sessions structured and what factors goes into determining the locations where they are held?
Okay, so how they are structured is it depends a little bit on many things. First, we have to understand what's the familiarity that developers have with various concepts, be it Web3, be it Web2, because we do use Web2 stack on our solutions, right? You can code in whatever language you want. You can code in Python, you can code in JavaScript, you can code in C. You can make your smart contracts in any of these. So we do have to understand what's the public and what's their level of knowledge before structuring the course and the curriculum itself and what we're going to teach, how long we have to explain some core concepts of Web 2 or Web 3 to pass to them. And yeah, and there's a lot that, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot that happens on the fly, right? Because some people just get some things easier than others. Some people get some specific things and are even able to help you. So it's all about the class itself. We do a lot of preparation. We prepare classes, we prepare sessions. We already invite preemptively beforehand, not preemptively, we already invite beforehand many speakers to motivate those students on what they can build, to showcase good examples and how things are built. But I do think that, your other question was the selection of the places, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are lots of things that come into it, such as, are there going to be events that make sense for people to use Cartesi afterwards? Or is that community a community that would make sense to use the technology? Like, Nigeria is a big case of a place that can benefit a lot for blockchain technology as a whole, right? So
Yes.
this really influences our choice on Lagos. We also see the motivation of people from those places on our Discord, for example. Like, even before we organized the Lagos masterclass, we figured out many people from Lagos were already looking into our project, joining our Discord, proposing questions, trying to build stuff. So there are many signs of many different things that start to show up. Hey, maybe we should start looking at those places specifically.
Okay. Right. So, from your perspective, right, how have these diverse outreach efforts through hackathons and masterclasses helped grow and strengthen Cartesi's developer community over time?
I think very positive. They had very positive impacts on the community, because during those events, not only examples, but explorations of things we never thought before are created. So solutions that serve as examples and inspiration to other solutions. So I mentioned Protocol GPT, right? There was this inspiration for it that came from Chain GPT before. That was a solution that was also developed on Cartesi, but Protocol GPT had a specific focus. Or the same is true for many other kinds of apps, but even tools and even contributors that come regularly and build amazing things on the stack. Like, we actually found people on those events that later became a big part of our team, the Cartesi team as a whole. So it brings people to us. It brings everything. It's always so nice to have those kind of adventures.
Right. So, a follow-up question to that. What have been some of the key learnings or highlights from engaging developers through these channels?
We learn a lot, actually, all the time about our DevX. Like, what's working, what's not working, what we're teaching right, what's wrong, our resources on Docs, our resources on YouTube. We created a class on Udemy that is very, very hand guide, right? It's like handheld to explain to the devs the basics concepts of Cartesi and how to create your first steps. So through those events, through those experiences, we learn a lot on what can help the devs, libs and things that, right, a year ago, devs didn't have that, but now they can just import to their project functionalities that are already tailored for them. So they can skip steps because we figure out the needs of the community.
Figuring out the needs of the communities. That's another line I like. Figuring out the needs of the communities. Yeah. All right. Looking ahead, What other exciting events or initiatives can developers curious about exploring Cartesi's offerings look forward to in the coming months?
Okay. Looking forward in the coming months, I know we will be in events such as If Global by the end of this year. We are always posting and creating new content on our communities, and for keeping informed with all of these, I think the best place is our Discord for sure, because there you can always be updated about everything we're doing, hackathons we're organizing, events we're organizing, workshops. Keep tabs there, and you will always see that we're making new workshops. We are launching new services in terms of, for example, a month ago we had this special sessions where every day of the week some member of my team would be available for office hours for developers to come and come to us with questions, right? So yeah, I think it's the best place to follow us as a whole.
All right. Discord it is. So if you're an aspiring developer and you want to get in on the latest updates, the Cartesi team, when you visit their website, there's a link for you to join their Discord. So you get right onto it and stay updated.
Just to add to that, follow us on Max, because we're very active. We do have a very present social media activity, and we're always sharing fun things there.
All right, awesome. So there you have it, guys. Discord and X. You can get as much information as you want from the Cartesi team, live from the Cartesi team. Thank you so much, João, for today's episode. As a non-technical person myself, I learned a lot about the technical side of things and how Cartesi is changing the technical industry, the Web3 technical industry, and how they're helping aspiring young developers. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to your team too for doing all this amazing work and supporting people and giving them a voice. And so much for all that you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Having the opportunity of being here is just amazing.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And that wraps up today's episode of the Web3 Quick Bite podcast. We hope you enjoyed this discussion, because I did. If you have any feedback or questions, please reach out on social media or send an email at web3quickbites@gmail.com. Thanks again to our guests for joining us, and thank you listeners for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more exciting content, so be sure to subscribe and tune in. Bye.